Welcome. If you're coming back, thank you for your support. If you're a new viewer, I hope you subscribe and stick around. My name is Adam. I'm the host of a podcast that is activating our mission to unlock a new era of growth. Podcast is called Unlocking Unlock Growth. We are focused on B2B. I'm also the founder of a digital marketing agency out of Chicago called Mably. This is not a regular episode. We are preparing for season 6, and I took a break about 5 or 6 months to focus on the strategy and understanding of what our industry is all about in the future of marketing. And this update is first for the podcast guests. Perhaps you've already had a pre-interview. Maybe you are preparing for your pre-interview. I want to show you what the baseline vision that we have, and if it aligns, join the podcast and let's do a recording together. If it does not align, perhaps future seasons will. This update is also for Mably team. Whether you're supporting this podcast directly or indirectly, wouldn't be able to do this without you. Thank you. It is also for our advisors, whether you are on the legal side, on the technology side, finance, strategic. We find all of your contributions and guidance to be critical to help us unlock growth, unlock what's next. You hear me talk about unlocking quite a bit. A little disclaimer, you'll see some visuals that are clean and crisp and others are text in a box. I'm not a designer. If I had more time, I would I would work with the team to enhance the visuals, but I wanted to give this update to you as quickly as possible. Now, how are we preparing for season 6? It's important to understand where the market is at. Opportunities, challenges. So our focus has been on having 75 conversations with marketing and growth leaders. We've had 40 so far. There are 20 more that are scheduled in the coming weeks. And if you're one of those 60 so far or 75 when we finish, very much appreciate your time. And the titles range from CMO to Chief Growth Officers. It could be on the manager, on the VP level. It's mostly mid-market, although we have a number of organizations in the enterprise and some are startups. I will include a link below to the trailer that's a couple minutes to give you a gist of what these folks have seen in terms of the setup for the pre-interviews. Now, if you only have a few minutes and you wanted to stop this video because you're looking at the length and you're like, there's no way I have enough time to listen to the whole thing. Let me just break it down to the bottom line. I believe in the season 6 and in general for our industry that AI agents will unlock a new era of growth. And if you're looking at the words AI agents and you're thinking, is this a customer service rep? Is this an operator that was released by OpenAI? Give me a second. I will introduce you to the definition of AI agents. Now, if we're in agreement that it's AI agents will unlock a new era of growth, I think the next item down or the next question that we're all going to be posing is which standard operating procedures are going to be translated into AI agents to offer the highest ROI. We'll talk quite a bit in this video and this season about the importance of return on the investment for every marketing leader. And then if you're with me so far on those two, you may be asking yourself, okay, is this far-fetched? Should this be part of the kind of the optional read about where the future is headed? I think not. I believe we're at the cusp from theoretical to practical. And when I say on the cusp, you'll see in this video there's a lot of work that's already being done in this direction. And a spoiler, if you make it to the end, I'll show you how we've built an AI agent to help us find you folks to source podcast guests that are best aligned for an appearance. I am saying on the cusp of moving from theoretical to practical at scale. What are AI agents? So many different definitions. I'll give you one, and even mine, it may change in a couple of weeks, but so far this has resonated the most. It's a digital teammate that uses tools and reasoning to automate tasks and optimize campaigns. And I want to focus on the term uses tools. We had coming from a long week last week in Chicago with our team, 16, 18-hour days as we were debating and discussing what's next. And Jeff, if you're watching this, appreciate the clarity that you brought, which is uses tools, and it's important to highlight uses tools that it believes it needs to accomplish a task. So think about an AI agent versus a workflow. In a workflow, it's very prescriptive. With an AI agent, it has a series of tools and it will decide which tools it will use. And if Again, we're asking the question, is this far-fetched out there? At this point, from visual identity to really the future of marketing, a big part of it, not the whole thing, a big part of it will be prompting, fine-tuning, RAGs, and AI agents. We're going to be thinking about all of this remarkable, brilliant content that will need to become knowledge bases with much higher quality than just loading some stuff into ChatGPT. I would imagine years ago there were marketers that were looking at databases and data saying, well, that's not marketing. Today it is. If you're not a data-driven marketer, that's a true challenge. Now, one of my favorite quotes, if I had more time, right, write a shorter letter, in my case would be a shorter video, so forgive me, the duration of this video is quite long, but there's a lot to cover, and I'll do my best to give you a guide how you can jump around through the different sections of what I'd like to share with you, whether you're a podcast, a guest, and you're thinking if you're aligned to the appearance, whether you're a team member with Mably or you're one of our advisors. So I'm going to talk about the future of marketing. I'm going to talk about the 75 conversations we've had to date and what we've learned. I'm going to talk about this, are we on the cusp of theoretical to practical? And then if you make it an optional section below, I'm going to open the hood and walk you through one of the agents that has emerged after a number of months at research and development at our agency. And I'm best consumed at 2x speed, if not a little faster. And if I know that I'm consumed at 2x speed, I can slow down a bit because I do need time to think. My brain is kind of firing in so many different directions. And that's why I brought these visuals, is to help me get hyper focused. All right, let's talk about the future of marketing. In June of last year, about 9 months ago, Jeff actually sent me an article. Jeff is the head of product at Mably, and he said, Adam, you got to take a look at this. There are 3 eras: co-pilots, agents, and then autonomous marketing teams. I don't want to think about that future at this point in time. I think there are many years to come of marketing agents. And if you're paying attention, and maybe you're hearing this in the news, at that time there were hundreds of millions fueling this growth. I think we're now safely in billions in preparation for AI agents. What would be the simplest way to think about AI agents? This is me oversimplifying the flow from the lead of the organization, moving through the organization, all the way to a task. And when this podcast ran 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I'd say a small percentage of the folks I was talking to would say, yeah, we're doing tasks with Copilot, with ChatGPT right next to them. And today, it's the majority. I rarely run into someone who is not using AI to complete tasks. I propose the next step is not a task, but a series of tasks. We would think about it as a SOP, standard operating procedures. Timelines, no one knows, right? No idea. And this will follow the law of diffusion of innovation, similarly to what I just said in terms of AI tasks. Innovators first, a couple of years ago, then it was early adapters. We are now straight in late majority to even laggers. Next is SOP. This is my guess, absolute guess, that in the next 2 to 4 years, over the next 2 to 4 years, we're going to see innovators, early adapters. We're going to see the same wave as we saw with co-pilots move with AI agents. There are a number of tools that will be used. I mean, I'm not a technologist myself. We have smarter minds on the team who are supporting us and advisors. But I can tell you one of the tools, and I'll show you how we're using it internally, is NA10 that was designed for automation. It's been around for a couple of years. But this is a search results for NA10 in Google over the last 4 or 5 months. We found it somewhere over here, began to see an absolute explosion as we're moving from theoretical to practical. All right. So that was a little bit on the future of marketing. And by the way, if you're watching this and you maybe you're not going to appear on the podcast, but you have something that you'd like to say, go ahead and share in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of marketing. And lastly, I mentioned it already. I want to clarify. I'm not saying the entire future of marketing are AI agents. I'm saying AI agents will be a significant part of that future. So 75 conversations that we've had, process and the findings. We are focused on B2B marketing and growth leaders. I mentioned above some of the titles. of the folks we've talked to, we're taking I wouldn't call it a rigorous scientific approach, but we're certainly trying to keep this as organized as possible because it is a fire hose of information, or we're trying to figure out if there are patterns and themes across different industries, number of employees, titles, and we are capturing this via a database in order for us to really look for the problems, the challenges that the market is seeing. If you are kind of interested in some of these details, just know I'm going to drop a link to a Figma board in the comments or in the description of this video. So we're now extracting challenges and opportunities. So I think we're at 100 or 120 now. And then we're trying to unify them. How do we bring them together into as clear as possible visual, as clear as possible essence of what we've learned? And again, I'd love to see comments, or if you just got this email from me and you're preparing for an appearance, tell me, you have marketing challenges? Reaching target audience. I mean, I don't know what B2B marketer isn't always focused on finding better ways. The declining effectiveness of traditional strategies. I hear this all the time, and myself, I'm always asking the questions of how do we personalize at scale? And that will be the R&D example at the end of the video, where personalization at scale is quite an interesting challenge when you think about the SOPs and the AI agents. Content strategy challenges, branding inconsistencies, and ability to react fast, right, to information that's coming in. Data and analytics. There's so much data. There are gaps, right? When you think about the customer journey, when you think about attribution and tracking, quality, and often the integration across the different systems. And the last one, I got to say, was kind of one of those surprising ones. And then the more I thought about it, the less surprising it was, until I reached a moment when I realized that I should have anticipated it. We're also having similar challenges. It's organizational. How do you align sales and marketing? Where is that handshake? Where's that handoff? Where's the drop? There's always, hey, we brought the MQLs. What about the SALs? What about what now they dropped off? They didn't become an SQL. Whose fault is it? Is it the ICP? There's the team structure challenges. That has been fascinating to better understand. And then there's a change management and resistance. Of course, the rate of change is accelerating at such speed. It's mind-numbing. And I do want to kind of quickly reflect on, and if you visit the Figma, you'll have a link to this video. But I interviewed, and Matthew, if you're listening, thank you so much. You're one of the first, where we think about the struggle of aligning sales and marketing. There was an episode with a demand leader for really fast-growing technology company in the legal space who said just straight up, like, let's change the goals from MQL to SQL for marketing leaders. Blew my mind. And I've heard that from a number of other marketing leaders. And I have further down a few comments to make in terms of the customer journey and how can we rethink this handoff with more clarity. But I'm not gonna get into it now. So that was my kind of our podcast research of 75 conversations being distilled. There's a Google search, which is, looking at articles, reading reports, and ultimately I keep seeing over and over and over and over again, CMOs have to do more with less. Same headcount, same workload. You got to hit the growth goals. But then beyond the Google search, there's now a question of getting into synthetic market research. The data is pretty extraordinary around how accurate synthetic research could be. And I don't think it's a surprise when you think about being able to live query reports and news articles and all of the information that's available. So this is from Grok, right? Thinking about the B2B mid-market. And again, if you're watching this and in a comment below, maybe just throw in, hey, Grok was not accurate at all. But does it resonate with you? Leaders are facing generating leads, providing market proving, and keeping up with digital trends. The proving of marketing value, ROI, that appears in so many different conversations. Managing complex sales cycles, right? I think that speaks to the marketing to sales handoff, B2B specifically. Resource constraints, no doubt. And of course, content creation and distribution, major pain point. OpenAI, similar, synthetic research, scaling lead generation. There we go again. Sales, marketing, alignment. tech and data integration, and ROI pressures. It appears in across no matter what type of research we've looked at so far, and this is common sense, right? Marketer isn't delivering revenue. The sales team is. That doesn't mean that their life is cushy by any stretch of imagination, but it does mean that the marketer proving value has to be top of mind. And then the content differentiation. It's not easy to create in B2B content at scale, and we're going to reflect on that in a second. So when we think about these 75 conversations and synthetic research, I come to the conclusion of, in the context of the podcast, we're looking for the biggest challenges in the customer journey, right, to unlock growth. It's that simple. All right, includes the 75 conversations. So we've talked about the future of marketing. We talked about the 75 conversations, the process and the findings. We're now going to think a little bit about the theoretical to practical. And as I said before, some think it's on the cusp. In my view, we're not at the cusp of building them. We're on the cusp of scaling them and deploying. Customer journey. Where do we focus? Right? If we could take any SOP and convert that into an AI agent, which stage of that cycle do we focus on? Now, I don't think all of you would look at this and say, yep, that's how we define the stages. But generally speaking, there is a attract, there is a becomes a lead. So you look at the number of visitors, then the number of forms submitted, the number of marketing qualified leads, right? And then what happens next? In some cases, do you jump to SQL? In the case of Matthew, he's responsible for SQL. In some cases, there is a sales accepted lead. Okay, it came in. The sales reviewed it and said, yep, it's good to go. Or marketing reviewed it and said, yeah, it should be good. Here's the handshake. It's now in your world. And then it is an SQL, and now we're looking at number of deals. So where do we focus? In other words, this is the language of this next season, in my opinion, will be the language of marketers in the years to come. Which SOPs will be turned into AI agents to provide the highest return on the investment? And it won't be a one-time conversion SOP to AI agent. It'll be into a V1. And then it will be endless optimization to give agents more tools to fine-tune and so on and so on. So if you click on the link to the Figma, you can take a look at a few of these dots where synthetic work with Grok and ChatGPT is pointing our attention to the different SOPs that may have the highest return on investment. And most of these are along the lines of the challenges that we've seen from the market research, whether from podcast research or Google or synthetic. And the same for OpenAI as we look at areas of reporting, analytics, lead generation, qualification, content creation, ads, emails, and so on and so forth. So that's the question. From theoretical to practical is to hyper focus on the SOPs. I'm going to just pick one. And again, forgive the brevity of some of these comments here and the design. I just wanted to get this update as quick as possible. I have some 20 meetings with folks, and hopefully you're listening to this, and I'll be meeting with you tomorrow and Tuesday to talk about the appearance on the podcast. And I wanted to show this to you. Right, so let's talk about the marketing to sales handoff. Like a lead comes in on your website. A team member then goes to LinkedIn and then takes a look at the lead's website. Lead typo. Sorry about that. Then it's mapping to an ICP. What is the ideal customer given this lead? Then what are the case studies and capabilities of your organization that are a match for that ICP? And let's write a personalized email, right? And then update the CRM and set a next step to nurture. How long does that take? Right? Especially in the world of B2B, and leads are very, very valuable. Could it be 20 minutes, right, to go through this process? Could it be an hour? Could this be multi-hour? Are there challenges that are involved in even switching context to jump on this and really rushing to get back to them? Could an AI agent do that? And I'm going to introduce a term, if you haven't heard this before. I think it's critical when we talk about SOPs to AI agents. Human in the loop. You're going to hear me talk about this over and over and over again, because ultimately this process will not be fully automated. And whether it's 2 minutes or it starts with 10 minutes and then 3 months later it goes down to 2 minutes through lots and lots of fine tuning, but it certainly is a major improvement from one to the other. And this specific one, I can, at the end of the video, if you make it this far, I can show you how we've done exactly this, not for marketing to sales handoff, but to personalize messages to invite guests on the podcast. All right. Content creation, major challenge for many, many of you, as we can see in the research. And what are the steps? And maybe some of you have like very different steps in this process, but generally you need ideas. You got to keep your ICP in mind. You got to look at the previous content that you've generated. You don't want to rewrite the same thing over and over again. You got to consider the SEO opportunities in some cases where you do some research on long tail keywords. What's your competition writing about? Write the content, optimize the content with internal and external links, and publish. And that's just a few of the steps in the process. There are many organizations that, and some of the clients that we work with, where there are twice, 3, 4, 5 times the number of steps in this process to ensure that the piece of content is as strategic as possible. Could this take 2 hours, 4 hours? And AI is already in the flow, right? You can get ideas for the blog. That's your ChatGPT or Grok or one of the other co-pilots. But how do you do all of the steps in the process? Now, in this case, from 4 hours, I wouldn't go to 2 minutes. I think we are now moving in a direction of 30 after this has been fine-tuned. And I'll give my point of view in kind of two different ways, or two different reasons. The first is I think we're way off from seeing the type of content that would really work for a B2B company to get it to the destination. And secondly, I think there are a lot of questions about how we're going to be optimizing, and I don't even yet know fully how we're optimizing this content for search engines versus for this content to appear in the results of AI. So now is it search everywhere, right, optimization? But I think 30 minutes as a goal is a comfortable goal after fine-tuning. And I'll again refer to, once you release these, and we're seeing this firsthand, when the first agent goes online, it kind of sucks, right? It's now becoming the question of, okay, how do we fine-tune this? And this is no surprise. It starts with OpenAI, right? Or being able to put one of the major LLMs in your workflow, and then the gap between that and making it an AI agent that is quality output for your organization is what we're after. So I think, getting a little lost in the excitement of creation of the content. But there's an interesting one. It hit us last week, and if there's nothing else, if you have 3 seconds after this video, I would be super appreciative if you could throw a little note or respond back to my email. Tell me what you think about this specific idea for an SOP to an AI agent. So we all have contact forms. Do we need them in this new era of growth? This is our website. And I look at this form and I ask myself, well, I started with actually our head of product last week. We were in a meeting, and Jeff Sogolov was like, why is there a contact form? Well, like, person is they're really interested right now. And really, what is the SOP? Like, a form is filled, kind of similar to what I described earlier. There's research that's involved, ICP mapping, got to write the personalized email, look at the case studies, look at the knowledge base, update the CRM, nurture until it's scheduled. This is a 1 to 3 hours, depends how long you're nurturing. It's not in the moment. Why do we have contact forms? Will we have contact forms in the future? Why can't this be an AI agent that's engaging right now, like right away? And their goal is to educate, to qualify, and to schedule, and there's zero time involved. Not saying this isn't simple. This AI agent then would need to know quite a bit about the organization, as well as the more they know about the prospect, more personalized they could be. But I think the question we should be asking ourselves is SOPs to AI agents. So if you have 500 contact form submissions a month or 1,000, how does that workflow happen today? How many of them are getting lost? What is the ideal AI agent to automate those SOPs? All right. So we are now done with the update right? So if you're a podcast guest, right, you've just seen my point of view as kind of a baseline for the podcast. And one, you're in. Let's do this. Jump on. Let's have a great time. Let's push the boundaries of what's possible. It doesn't matter if it's theoretical or practical. Let's talk about SOPs to AI agents. Let's take some of the challenges and the opportunities and paint a picture of what will be possible. I'll be reaching out to you, and let's talk about the format. I'd like to begin fireside chat format with 2 to 4 guests. So do let me know if you're open to that, where we can collectively brainstorm this new era of growth. I'll also continue the one-on-ones. So thank you. If you want to jump off now, this next piece is really to talk about our R&D, right? For the last, I think it's the last 5 or 6 months, I must have seen, I don't know, 200, 300 videos. I subscribe to a ton of influencers. And in my view, what we're seeing with AI agents, for the most part, is educational value with a bit of entertainment. And the majority of the videos that you'll find on AI agents are not going to show the output. It's very theoretical. And I have spoken now to maybe 5, 6, or even 7 of the influencers where I've reached out and had a conversation with them saying, show me. There are some that are production ready. So we, for the last 3-4 months, have begun to build production oriented. I'm just going to say oriented. The idea here is not to entertain. The idea is to add value. And we have a number of agents either on the way or already being used. In this context, I'd like to show you a agent that is helping us find the guests for the podcast, to qualify, and then to personalize the emails with human in the loop. And I would be that human in the loop. Now you have the Figma board. We're about to get a little bit further into the weeds. Before we do, it's early days, but I was looking at the results over just a couple days, and there's a 4% response rate from the guests, which is X what we're seeing historically for this type of outreach, for this type of industry, or this size organizations. Also not amazing, but this is, call it a V1 with a lot of fine tuning that's necessary. I'm going to go really quickly through this. I don't want to burn a lot of cycles, but I am planning to do a separate video dedicated to the mechanics. This is the kind of the CMO, the Chief Growth Officer, the VP edition, without getting you too far in the weeds. There are 3 different types of actions you'll see: the human, the automated, and the AI. The entire workflow that we designed starts with entering, hey, I'm looking for CMOs in Dallas. And then the system's job, and this is what an NA10 in the background looks like. The job of this specific agent is to bring back the list of people based on the keyword that was entered. The next one is now about enriching the data. Take the list, remove those without the profile, gather the information. We use another technology called Epify, and that's a different flow. This is a flow, right? This is where is this an AI agent versus a flow? This is a consistent flow through the process. Then the next step is to enrich the data further and populate into Google Sheets. And that is the next flow. Again, I'm sticking to the highest level possible, and I think my brain is starting to gradually shut down, but it's important to get through this. And I wanted to make sure that I finish the video with a practical example. This workflow is designed to now take the information we have and write a hyper-personalized email. And this is where we have a series of AIs in the workflow. A little side note, be careful how many of them you include in the process and how many iterations you have, because every time you hit an API, there is a cost involved. The first one is to, now that we've got the information on the individual, let's gather the information about the company. And this AI is helping us crawl the website and summarize the insights about the organization. We then have another agent. I should call this a workflow. Well, it's the terminology we're jumping around between those two. But this one is the ideal custom profile that takes the information that we now have to figure out which ICP they are. Next, we get into a marketing strategy agent that now is summarizing the information to prepare it for an email copywriter agent that is now writing the content. At this stage, we get into fine-tuning, and I'll show you below how we're fine-tuning as we're catching issues and we're now improving the next iteration of the emails. And lastly, there's an entire video series to be done around knowledge bases. How do we create the brand voice? How do we upload all the relevant information? How do we ensure that it is relevant based on that specific ICP? And then the output is a personalized cold email. A personalized cold email. So the way it's currently happening in the background, I log into Google Sheets and I see an email that has been written specifically in this case for Jennifer. And it's based on all the steps above. Once I'm ready to send it, I click send, and then right in the system to the right, I can say, hey, here's what I didn't like, and we're catching our comments in order for us to improve the output in the future. And that's the result. Automatically from the Google Sheets, an email now gets sent, and that's where we're seeing the higher returns on the emails being sent. So this one was a little choppier. The videos to the practical will now appear on our Mably YouTube channel. So there's a link here in the Figma below. I'll drop it in the description. Go ahead and sign up. In the coming weeks, we're going to begin to release videos of showing how we're now building agents. That completes the update. Now, again, if you're a podcast guest, please respond to the email and let me know your thoughts if this aligns. Let's jump on and share your brilliance. Mably team, thank you for all you do. Advisors, we appreciate your support. And let's unlock this new era of growth together. Thank you. Over and out.